Hello, and welcome to the Advanced CESS Workshop, Section 5, CESS Rehabilitation Estimates. In this session, you will learn about developing multiple work orders in a single estimate and dividing them into work order numbers using WBS. We'll also use models to add items to the spreadsheet. We'll learn to develop one-time assemblies specific to your park needs using edit assembly and item takeoff. We'll create one-time crews, and we will merge estimates by creating one abatement estimate and a second building rehabilitation estimate, and then combining the two estimates into a single project. Activity 1. Set the WBS code values. Start by creating the first of two estimates for this section, the abatement estimate. Navigate to your region, your park, the other folder, the CESS Workshop folder, and then find your username. Right-click on your username folder, thread to New, Estimate, and fill in the required fields designated with the yellow background. Our file name will be 12345 Abatement. Continue to follow the red asterisks and complete any fields with a yellow background. Use your current year database and the current year pricing date. If you know your site code or P code, enter that. If not, any P code will work at this stage. Verify that the checkbox by Open Estimate and Estimating when done is checked. Verify there are no red asterisks here indicating required fields. Click the Finish button. We'll establish our WBS values for Takeoff. We'll start by clicking the Item Takeoff Settings icon on the toolbar, and we're going to use the Work Order WBS and WBS 08. For value, in the Work Order WBS, we'll type 93492-626538, and then we can enter a description. And WBS, our value, our sequence value will be 010 dot, and our description for 010 dot will be abatement. Be sure to click OK. This adds the values to the WBS list in the estimate where they can be picked from a list from this point forward. Click Close. Pause the recording and perform Section 5, Activity 1 of the Advanced CESS Workshop Manual. Activity 2. Perform Model Takeoff. Find the fourth Takeoff icon just to the left of the blue one-time item icon. Single click. This launches your Model Takeoff dialog. The source will be defaulted to Database. We'll open the renovation model. Double-click on the R renovation folder. Select the R1 building renovation model and then click the Interview button to launch the model. Every model requires a unique model reference. In the event you run the same model more than once, this allows your individual models to be specifically identified in your spreadsheet. Our reference will be Housing Unit A. Your task then is to complete the model interview by entering the values specific to your project. We'll start by clearing the rectangular dimensions checkbox, and that will allow us to put in a full square footage as opposed to entering length and width of the building. We'll accept the default 12 for the story height, floor to floor. We'll accept 2 for building stories, and we'll type 3,000 for the total building area in square feet for all floors. Use your carriage return or enter key to lock the value in and move down to the next interview point. Note that it assumes a symmetrical value. This can be overridden if you choose. We'll accept that value today. It pre-calculates a perimeter based on a ratio. Again, that can be overridden. And we'll accept the metadata returns here as they're calculated by our model. We'll page down, clicking between the button and the down arrow in the vertical scroll column until we find the abatement sections. We'll check the box for asbestos. We'll check the box for interior abatement, and for asbestos floor tile, we'll check that box. We'll accept the removal with machine. We'll enter the dimensions for the floor tile removal, and we'll use a length of 30 and a width of 20. We'll move down to ceiling abatement, check the box. We'll clear the dimension entry checkbox and enter 660 square feet of ceiling area to be removed with a working height of 8. Our ceiling type will be 6 gypsum board, and we'll also include 6 light features to be removed. That completes our entries for the abatement work. We'll click OK to save those. Optionally, you can click the scan icon on the toolbar. Scan will search for any incomplete entries. Any formula errors that may have occurred will be found and highlighted with a red exclamation point, indicating it must be repaired before the model can be generated. We'll click OK to our No Incomplete Entries Found. We'll click OK to accept the model entries. Click Close to exit the model interview. Returning to Model Takeoff dialog, click the Source Estimate button now. Click Expand All, and this will expose any models that you've run where the interviews are complete. Interviews completed without error will be indicated with a green dot, green for go. Interviews can always be rerun and modified by selecting them and clicking the Interview button. If you're going to run subsequent interviews using relatively similar entries, you can copy a previous interview, and the Copy Interview button will launch a distinct instance of a model where you could take off a second housing unit, in our case, for instance, copying the parameters, the criteria of the first housing unit you had used. Notice that the spreadsheet does not contain any items from the model interview as yet. The model must be generated to populate the model items. If during your model interview you discover you need to research additional information, you can place your model interview on hold, and this will automatically add a red dot preventing the model from being generated in an incomplete state. When you've gathered your information or additional requirements together, you can take the model off hold and run the interview again, modifying your entries. When you're ready, you can generate the model or models by clicking the Generate button, and any models again that are eligible will be listed here in the list. You can select or deselect models. Selecting them will cause them to generate when you click the OK button. When you select your models and click the OK button, the assemblies are run for you. Now the rows you'll see populating the screen are not line items, they're not database items, they're assemblies, and they're being generated quite rapidly. Clear the model generation complete message that the model items have now been generated to the spreadsheet. You can close the model generate dialog, close model takeoff dialog. Sequence your spreadsheet by assembly, and note the assemblies that have been added to your estimate. Click File and Exit to close the abatement estimate. Your abatement estimate is complete. Pause the recording and perform Section 5, Activity 2 in the Advanced CESS Workshop Manual. Section 5, Activity 3. Create a one-time assembly using Edit Assembly. We'll start by building our second estimate in this section, the Rehab estimate. Right-click on your username, New Estimate. We'll call this estimate 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Rehab, and continue completing the required fields. Verify the Open Estimate in Estimating checkbox is checked. Click Finish. The scenario is that you'll be doing a lot of roof replacement in your park, and your buildings have unique values that aren't available in the existing roof replacement assembly. So you will copy that assembly and add the additional work to the assembly unique to your park in this existing estimate. This one-time assembly will exist in this estimate only, but could later be copied to other estimates using the merge feature and reused again and again within your park. So to start the creation of a one-time assembly, we're going to use the existing shingle replacement assembly and add to it those items that we feel we'll need to use over and over again. So to start, launch Assembly Takeoff. We're looking for assemblies in the MB series, MB 3013, so we'll type a capital MB 3013, and that takes us into the roofing maintenance. We'll find 146, the group shingles. Double click to open that up, and the assembly that we want to copy is 0700, total asphalt shingle roof replacement. Now a double click would launch the assembly as if we were going to estimate that, but first we want to copy it and then add those items to the assembly that are unique to our projects. So here we'll do a right click now, not two left clicks, but a right click, and choose Edit Assembly. Note that the default source selection of our assembly is currently Database, and here we have the opportunity to click Add to make a copy. We'll get initially a password prompt. Now we don't know the password. We're not allowed to edit the database versions of this, so click Cancel. That brings up a blank template, and then click Pre-fill, and that makes a copy now of the values that were just placed in those fields. Click OK. Note that the source now has been changed to OneTime, no longer Database. This allows you to edit this version of the asphalt shingle assembly. Click Close, return to the assembly list, and vertically scroll to the top. And you'll note the system created a new folder with a folder name that has the same name as your estimate name. Double click to open, and this folder will house all the one-time assemblies that you choose to create in this estimate. Pause the recording and perform Section 5, Activity 3 of the Advanced CESS Workshop Manual. Activity 4. Add items to a one-time assembly. Navigate to your one-time assembly, right-click again, and choose Edit Assembly. Now we've decided to keep the demolition portions and the re-shingle portions of the assembly, but we know that on our building, specifically in our park, that we want to plan for costs to do some damage sheathing removal and replace, possibly some of the framing members, the rafters, the hips and valleys could be damaged, and we want to include some costs to replace some framing members. So we both have to remove and replace those Division 6 type items. Traditionally, assembly builders have ordered the items in their assemblies in the order you perform the work. So typically at the beginning of a roofing job you would secure access, a ladder or scaffolding, and at the end of the job you would clean it up with all the various components going in between those two things. And we'll keep that same format. So our setup and takedown of the ladder is good. Removing the shingles themselves, we'll keep removing the flashing. But after that, before we put the waterproofing on the roof, we're going to go ahead and insert all the framing members between these two items. And we'll do that by selecting the Insert button here, far right, clicking the pull down tab and choosing Items. And this gives us our database item list that we're familiar with. The same navigation techniques that we've been using and have learned apply here. We'll just scroll to phase 0605. That'll give us wood demolition. And in 0605 we'll open up phase 0510. We're looking for item 6092. Now a single click in an item list within a phase allows you then to jump to, if you type 0692, and it will jump right to the item you're looking for. Double click or drag and drop will bring the item, this time not into your spreadsheet, but into your OneTime Assembly. We're also looking for item 5840. That'll remove some rafters. We'll also look at item 5940 to put some costs in for possible hip and valley replacement. Now, since we've removed those wood components, we want to select some items next that will replace those components. So we'll collapse the spreadsheet. We'll navigate to 0611 and then 1030. We're looking for item 7060 and then item 7360. Also, we want to replace the sheathing on top of the wood framing members, so we'll look for phase 0616, 0616 3610, and item 0202. We'd also like to put in some disposal fees, so we'll collapse and navigate up into the 02 area where we have 0241. Under 0241 we want 1923 and item 0950. To order the items the way you're going to perform the project, you use the row headers to the far left of each row. To move a single item, you can select from the row header and use your Control Up arrow, and that'll move the item up one click at a time right in the position you want it. If you need to move a group of items, you can paint the items, and then using the four-way arrow you can click and drag the items up and then release. We'll leave the disposal fee here right after cleanup at the bottom. Click OK to save your work, pause the recording, and perform Section 5, Activity 4, the Advanced CESS Workshop Manual. Activity 5. Change the item calculations. Item quantities in assemblies are calculated through the calculation column. And there are several methods of doing this. If you right-click, the methods are exposed here. You can use a custom calculation, you can use a factor, you can use an item formula. This would be the item that's embedded at the item level in the database. Or you can access the formula library by choosing Use Selected Formula. We're going to exclusively, in this assembly, use factors. So you can start by changing all the calculation methods to factors. Right-click and choose Use Factor. Click OK to save this much of your work. Factors means times. Asterisk means times, and it's times the assembly calculation. So as you enter quantity variables, length and width, the assembly calculation is going to convert them into squares. And the calculation rows here will take that solution, that number that results from the length times width, divide by 100 to get a square, will go times whatever value you place here. Now in the manual we have done the conversions for you to convert to all the various takeoff quantities that you're going to need. Sometimes you need square, sometimes you need square feet, And sometimes you'll need to make a proportional calculation that calculates a reasonable number of lineal feet based on how many squares of your project. Now these are ratios, with the idea being that we're just trying to generate costs to remove and replace. We're just trying to generate costs to remove and replace some of the framing elements. So once you've changed the calculation method to factor, you can simply type in the resulting numeric value. Once you have one square, to get it into square feet, you multiply the number of squares times 100, and that would convert the squares resulting from your assembly calculation into square feet. We're deciding that of every square, we're going to have 5 square feet of flashing to remove. We'll have 10 square feet, or 10% of the wood sheathing, replaced here. We'll also use 10 lineal feet for the rafters per square and 10 lineal feet of valley. The conversion for 1,000 board feet in terms of replacing it will be a number 0.016, and for the hip and valley would be 0.013, as one is a 2x8 and a slightly different version in the hip, the 2x8 hip. The sheathing will be 10 square feet per square, so we'll use a 10 here, and we're back to squares on the framing itself, so we just keep the asterisk 1 here. We took off 5 square feet here, so we'll put back 5 square feet of flashing here. Shingles would be the same in terms of squares. Cleanup will stay as 1, and disposal fee will be 0.15, and that'll be tons per square in terms of removal. Now if you right click on the green area square, choose Edit Formula, you can see how the formula itself is going to take the area and divide it by 100, and that's going to put it into squares. To get the area, we'll right click again and Edit Formula, and we'll see that you're prompting for length and width, and of course multiplying them together will give you square feet. Dividing by 100 will give you squares, and that's expressed here in the assembly calculation and then the subsequent assembly unit. Quantities will be calculated in squares. The calculations will convert either square to square, square to square feet, square to lineal foot, square to ton, and so on. And the explanation for how these numbers were derived is in the workshop manual. If you're interested in how these were arrived at, you can review those explanations in the chart in this activity. Click OK to save your work, and since we've based our calculations on a 100% roof material replacement and an assumed 10% of the framing components, we'll change our description to say shingle roof replacement with 10% frame replacement. And click OK to save that change. Click Close. Pause the recording and perform Section 5, Activity 5 of the Advanced CESS Workshop Manual. Activity 6. Takeoff the one-time roof replacement assembly. We'll now apply our one-time assembly to our estimate. We'll make 6 passes representing 6 sections of roof on a single building. We'll begin by assigning WBS. We'll click the Takeoff Item Settings icon, do a work order of 93493-626590, and we'll call that work order number the value we just typed. Let's go to WBS 08, and we'll use the value 020 dot, and we'll call this value 020 dot roof replacement. Click OK to save those values and add them to the estimate list of WBS values in this estimate. We'll click Close, and now we'll double click our one-time assembly and make the corresponding passes. So our first pass will consist of 2 sections of roof. Quantity will be 2, and those sections are 50 by 20. You can click the purple plus to add the pass, or you can simply hit carriage return or the enter key when you reach the bottom variable, the last variable. Pass 2 will be 2 sections again, but these sections are 20 by 40. And again, if the cursor's at the bottom, if you just hit the carriage return one time, it'll execute those passes. Note that your quantity is being cummed here. This is the total cost of the 2 passes, and this is the total average cost per square. Pass 3 consists of 4 sections of roof that are 8 by 4. Pass 4 will be 1 section of roof, 40 by 7, 2 sections of roof, 10 by 10, and 2 sections, 30 by 10. You should see somewhere around 48 squares. Should have a total cost and then a total cost per square. Remember, you can right click on the assembly name, choose View Pass Audit, and remember that all your variable passes, the values that you've typed in, will be stored here for you. Close the window. We'll click OK to our assembly takeoff, and we'll click Close to return to the spreadsheet. Pause the recording and perform Section 5, Activity 6 of the Advanced CESS Workshop Manual. Activity 7. Review work order items. In this activity, we'll configure a new spreadsheet sequence so that we can organize our items by work order and by WBS 08. Find the work order phase spreadsheet sequence at the bottom of your spreadsheet and double left click. We're already here organized by work order and phase. We're going to add the element WBS 08. Your elements are sequenced here in ascending order, so vertically scroll down, find WBS 08, and use the Add button here to move it over to the spreadsheet sequence, so you're viewing it by work order, by WBS 08, and then by phase. If you need to adjust the order of the elements, use the priority buttons here to move any selected element up or down. Click OK once, and then click OK again to any recalc message that you get. And that creates a new tab where your estimate is now organized by work order and by WBS 08, and then by phase. Pause the recording and perform Section 5, Activity 7 of the Advanced CESS Workshop Manual. Activity 8. Create a one-time assembly using item takeoff. We'll continue to work in the Rehab estimate. We're going to create a one-time assembly, this time from scratch, not copying an existing assembly, but building it from items that we add through item takeoff. We'll click item takeoff, and we're looking for gutter and downspout removal and replacement. I'll page down to the 07, 05 phases. Into 0510, and I'd like to remove downspouts and gutter. We'll find 0120, and we'll just drag that into the item grid here. We'll find 0420 for the gutter. Now we've removed the gutter. We want to be able to put those back. We're suspecting that along the lines there may be a bit of fascia that we may need to replace or repair. So we'll collapse and go to the wood phases 0611 and find 1030 and item 6070. We'll collapse this list again, return to 07, this time 0771, and find 07, this time 0771, and phase 2330. Gutters. Looking for item 2700. And now in phase 2310, we're looking for the downspout item 5800. Once you've selected your items, you can go to this icon that's appeared when you launched Item Takeoff called Save as Assembly. Click it once. Again, you'll get the assembly password, to which you just click Cancel. And you'll want to enter a unique ID and a description. Let's use MG7071.0110. And a description like remove and replace gutter and downspout. With fascia repair. Click OK to save your work. Pause the recording and perform Section 5, Activity 8 of the Advanced CESS Workshop Manual. Activity 9. Add an assembly calculation. Remember that the assembly calculation and unit in the header parts of the assembly can help you drive your calculations on the item rows. We'll use a assembly unit of LF for lineal foot, and this is going to represent the lineal foot of gutter. To populate the assembly calculation with a formula or variable, you'll come over to the Find button here on the right hand side of the box. We're going to choose a formula for our assembly calculation. So in the list of elements, we'll choose formulas. The formula list is case sensitive, and I'm looking for length. So we'll use a capital L and a lowercase e, and that should jump us down to variables that start LE, length, and we just want the simple generic length formula. So we double click OK, and that places that formula containing a variable right in the assembly calculation. Click OK and leave the assembly open for the next activity. Pause the recording and perform Section 5, Activity 9 of the Advanced CESS Workshop Manual. Activity 10. Modify assembly item calculations. Now that you have your assembly calculation in, we'll go ahead and make changes to our item calculations. For demoing the downspout, we can't use length. That's our gutter calculation. So we'll right-click on Calculations and select Use Custom Calculation. And that leaves us as a default to our variable list. And we're looking for length of downspout or lineal foot of downspout. So I'll click in the assembly list and type a capital LF for lineal foot, and then just scroll to lineal foot of downspout. Drag and drop or a double click will put that in there for you. Once you have it there, just click OK, and that drops it in nicely at the end of the row. So your users will see length, they'll put in the length of gutter, then they'll see another variable for length of downspout, and the value from length of downspout will be attached to any row we apply this length of downspout variable to. For row 2, you can leave the factored assembly *1, that's removing the gutters, and we know that this length formula will pick up the length of gutters and place it here. The third row is in 1,000 board feet, and that will require us to do a little bit more of a formula right here. We'll right click in calculation, we'll choose Use Custom Calculation. We'll select Formulas and we'll find the same length formula that we used in the assembly calculation and then do the math to convert the length of gutter to fascia, not in lineal foot, but in 1,000 board feet. So whatever length we have, we want to multiply times 2 times 8. We divide that by 12 to get it to board feet, and we divide it again by 1,000 to get it to 1,000 board feet. This will convert our length to 1,000 board feet of 2 by 8 for our fascia. Click OK. For row 4, we're looking for the length of gutter. We can simply use the item formula that came with the gutter called length, and that will drop the same value for length here that we have here. And for downspout, we want the length of downspout again to put the downspout back that we removed up here. So it's a right click, use calculation, variables, and then lineal foot of downspout variable. Click OK. Click OK to save your work. Click Close. We used item Takeoff to select and group our items, and since we've now formed those into an assembly, we wouldn't need these. We can just simply click Cancel. Click Close and return to the spreadsheet. Pause the recording and perform Section 5, Activity 10 of the Advanced CESS Workshop Manual. Activity 11. Take off the gutter items using a one-time assembly. We'll start by setting our WBS. We'll put the gutter work in a new work order, 93492-626-592. Add a description. And a new WBS value, this time 030 dot gutter replacement. Click OK and click Close. Note that your Takeoff Item Settings icon remains pushed in. Let's go to Assembly Takeoff, open up our OneTime Assembly folder, find your gutter one-time assembly now, and double-click to load it. We'll make these assembly passes. We have two lengths of 50 foot with a total of 20 lineal foot of downspout. We have two lengths of 20 feet with 10 foot of downspout. We have 4 runs of 8 with 4 foot of downspout. We have run of 40 with 10 foot of downspout. 2 runs of 10 foot gutter with 10 foot of downspout, and 2 runs of 30 with 10 foot of downspout. So you should see a combined total of around $292 with the total cost and an average cost per lineal foot of gutter. Remember, you can right click on the assembly name, you can view the pass audit. All your takeoff is stored here. Click OK to save your work and click Close to return to the spreadsheet. Pause the recording and perform Section 5, Activity 11 of the Advanced CESS Workshop Manual. Activity 12. Create a one-time crew. We're going to modify the existing crew for the gutter and downspout because we're also replacing the fascia. So we'd like to put in another sheet metal worker and a carpenter. And we'll save that modification as a one-time crew just in our estimate. Let's select our downspout item and right-click and select your detail window. Note your order quantity for labor in crew days, and note the unit price of the existing crew, which is the sheet metal crew listed here. If you click your Resources tab, you'll see that that consists of 1 sheet metal worker. Right-click on the existing crew. We'll choose Edit Crew and click Estimate as the source. So we're editing the estimate version of this sheet metal crew. We'll start by copying it using Add and Prefill. In the crew box, let's change the designation to 2 here for 2 sheet metal workers, and let's add in the name that 1 carpenter. And same with the description. We can take and change the 1 in sheet metal workers to a 2, and we'll add the designation carpenter as 1. We'll increase the quantity here for sheet metal workers to 2, and we'll use the resource button here to find carpenter, drag and drop, double click and bring that in. The default value will be 1, and that works for us perfectly. Notice now we have a total of 2 resources in our crew, and the total count on those resources will be 3. Let's click OK to save our new crew. Notice that it's estimate only as the source, and then click Close. Stay in this view for the next activity, pause the recording, and perform Section 5, Activity 12 of the Advanced CESS Workshop Manual. Activity 13. Add the one-time crew to your estimate items. Now we built the crew in the last activity, but we have not applied it yet. Notice that our unit price is the same, order quantity is the same. So we'll use the List button in the right-hand side of the box here. Click that once. Make sure your source is estimate, and you should see the crew that you've just put together. Go ahead and select that. And notice how now the unit price, the price per day, returns the cost for 3 resources instead of the 1 resource we had before. When you click the Resources tab, you can see the buildup of the 1674, consisting of the single carpenter and the 2 sheet metal workers. Click OK to save that edit and close the detail window. Pause the recording and perform Section 5, Activity 13 of the Advanced CESS Workshop Manual. Activity 14. Merge Estimates. To use an estimate in a merge, the estimate must be closed. So start this activity by using the lower of the 2 X's and close your Rehab estimate. To access the Merge feature, go to File, Merge Estimates. Merge is a wizard, and there are 2 basic ways to go about merging. You can enter a new estimate name in the New Estimate Name box, and the merge process will create a new estimate from scratch and then merge your selected estimates into it. Or alternately, as we're going to do in this activity, we're going to select an existing estimate. Click Browse and find your Rehab estimate. Select it and click Save. Answer yes to the Confirm Save As. Click Step 1 of the Merge Estimate wizard. The next message you receive is a Merge Estimate warning. Since you've selected an existing estimate, the message is telling you that this estimate will be changed by the merge, and do you want to continue? You must say yes to this to continue the merge process. In Step 1, the Merge Wizard has built a file tree of available CESS estimates. We're going to select our Abatement Estimate and add it to the Estimates to be Merged list. So the result will be a combination of the Rehab and the Abatement estimates in one estimate. Step 2 would allow you, should you ever need to select ranges of items by phase, by material class, by WBS. We're going to leave the default no here. Step 3 would also allow you to combine matching items We would not want to do that in our case because we would lose our WBS detail possibly, so we'll leave the default no. And by default, the merge audit trail is already checked. Now leave this checked if you want to be able to review assembly in your final merged estimate. If you remove the audit trail, you'll remove the ability to review assembly. So in step 3, accept the default here of no, leave the default checkbox, and lower right, click the Merge Estimate button. When the Merge Estimate Success message appears, just click OK. Pause the recording. Perform Section 5, Activity 14 in the Advanced CESS Workshop Manual. Activity 15. Review the merged estimate. In this activity, we'll open the Rehab estimate and verify that the items from the Abatement estimate are contained in our Rehab estimate. Click File. The last 4 estimates you've been working in will be listed here at the bottom. Click Rehab. And click the Work Order WBS 08 Phase Spreadsheet Sequence. And look for the work order containing WBS 010 dot. And you'll note that the abatement items are here for you. Collapse the spreadsheet using the yellow minus sign to the left of the binoculars. Click File and open the abatement estimate listed here. Choose the Work Order Phase Sequence tab. Collapse the spreadsheet and go to Window and tile the estimates vertically. And if you scroll horizontally, you'll note that the total amounts are the same in the source estimate as they are in our target estimate. Close the abatement estimate. You can leave the Rehab estimate open for the next activity. Pause the recording and perform Section 5, Activity 15 of the Advanced CESS Workshop Manual. Activity 16. Organize the costs by uniformat. In this activity, we'll work with the Rehab estimate. We'll build a new spreadsheet sequence that will allow us to organize our items in the uniformat code. Double-click the Work Order WBS 08 Sequence tab, and in the sequence number box here, click the pull down and choose Sequence 4. We'll replace the work order phase sequence with the 4 uniformat codes. So you can highlight an element and use the lower of the 2 arrow buttons here and remove those elements and add uniformat 1, 2, 3, and 4. The tab name is a concatenation of the element names, so it can be quite long. If you'd like to, you can highlight that and just call that tab Uni. Click OK to the recalc message and select the Uni Sequence tab. And note that at the moment your uniformat values show as unassigned. We'll start by moving items in the phases 0193 to 0282 into the F series of uniformats. And I would do this by painting the rows. Down to 02821347. Then keeping your mouse arrow on the row headers where you have the horizontal black arrow, do a right click and select Move Copy. And starting with 4, we'll grab F1020, special construction, and once you've determined the most minor value, the following uniformats follow that schema. If 4 is F1020.330, then 3 has to be F1020. And then the second level must be F10, and the highest level has to be F. When you've got them all populated, just click OK. The default will be Move. Make sure you stay on Move. And now those items are coded correctly now for uniformat. The next move will be the framing items from 0605 through 0616, and then we'll skip some items and we'll grab 0731 through 0751. And you do this by holding the Control key down when you want to interweave. Remember, Shift will grab contiguous items. The Control key allows you to grab selected items. We'll right-click, select Move Copy, and this time starting with 4, we're going to grab B 1020 102. So 3 has to be B1020. Uniformat 2 will be B10, and 1 of course will be B. Click OK on your move. In the next move, we're going to grab the 07s through 0771. Move Copy will be in the B3010. Three will be B3010. B uniformat 2 will be B30, and uniformat 1B. Next batch will be 0921 through 0929. Starting at the bottom again, C1010 205. Three C1010, 2 C10, 1 is C. We'll grab all the 1424s and move them to D 1010 110. Uniformat 3 will be D1010, 2 is D10, 1 is D. Click OK. Now the last moves, we're going to practice the drag and drop as opposed to move copy, paint the row headers, and this time left click on the row headers, hold the left key down, move them up to F1020.330 and release. And that's the drag and drop. Pause the recording and perform Section 5, Activity 16 of the Advanced CESS Workshop Manual. Activity 17. Review Uniformat Sort. While in the Uniformat spreadsheet sequence, use the minus sign on the toolbar and collapse your spreadsheet up to the most minor level of Uniformat, Uniformat 4. Adjust your spreadsheet a bit so you can view some of your summary totals. And note how much real estate 4 sequence tabs will take up in your spreadsheet view. There's a feature in View called Minimize Overlines that will push your Uniformat values and your descriptions into a single column and make it a little bit easier for you to navigate the spreadsheet and still show that great level of detail there. You can also right-click in the corner column here where the column and the row headers meet and choose a best fit. And that will allow you to begin to adjust your spreadsheet in a little bit easier method, getting your category costs nicely displayed here. We'll add some overline quantities here. Let's use a gross square footage for the takeoff quantity in our overlines. We'll type 3608. And notice how the unit cost is then developed in your overline summaries here. You can grab that same value and click and drag down to the bottom, right click and fill down, and that will develop all your unit costs for you here at the overline level. Click SF and drag down, and then right click, fill down again. Your unit costs are now developed at all your 4 Uniformat levels. Pause the recording and perform Section 5, Activity 17 of the Advanced CESS Workshop Manual. Activity 18. Split the estimates. In this activity, you're asked to submit these estimates that you built in a single estimate into 3 distinct work order estimates. We'll close the estimate. We'll make 3 copies and then rename each copy to match a work order. Then we'll open each of those work order estimates and delete the work orders that are not part of the file name work order. Close your Rehab estimate, return to EOS Explorer, locate your Rehab estimate in your username folder, and right-click on Rehab, copy. Go to your username, right-click, and paste. Repeat 2 more times. right-click on each of the copy ofs and rename them to a work order name. Right-click, rename, and type. Open each estimate. Sequence by work order. Collapse. And delete the portions of the estimate that do not match your file name. You can close all three estimates. Pause the recording and perform Section 5, Activity 18 of the Advanced CESS Workshop Manual. Activity 19. Verify that the estimate information is complete. Validation requires that the estimate information in each estimate is complete and accurate. You can select one of your new work order estimates and choose the Edit command here, upper right, or you can right-click and edit. This will open the estimate information fields for editing. We want to pay particular attention to the job classification values. The transfer of the data to Maximo is dependent upon the correct location and work order number present here in job classification. It is not dependent upon the file name. So in each estimate, you must modify your location values to match the required work order in Maximo. And the corresponding work order number. At the same time, you would likely change your status to completed while you're here and verify that the fields are filled out everywhere else. Be sure to click Finish, otherwise your work won't be saved. And repeat those steps for any remaining work order estimates that you wish to send to Maximo. Pause the recording and perform Section 5, Activity 19 of the Advanced CESS Workshop Manual.